This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to easily build a website, portfolio, and online store, an all-in-one platform to give you the best design to showcase your work. These are the expressions I found most useful in After Effects. I'm linking them all in a Google Doc in the description. Number 1 is maintain stroke width. If you're using strokes in your animations, this expression is a must. I first got this from Adam Plouffe, who has an extensive blog post about this expression. It's a really simple way to make sure that when your layer is scaled up or scaled down, the stroke width stays the same. I can't stand having different stroke widths in my animation. Say we've got these illustrations of some chickens, and here we want to scale one of them up. If we scale one of these chickens up, the stroke width is way bigger than the other chickens here, and it looks like cheap garbage. But to fix that, we just need to add that expression to the stroke width property. So with that layer selected, I'm going to go and search for stroke width properties in our search bar over here. Option click and paste. And then option click this second path we've got as well and paste that as well. So now if we play it back, the stroke width maintains consistent throughout the whole animation. And we can even parent that to a null or another object and scale that null object up, and the stroke width maintains the same size as well. Number 2 is maintain scale while parented. This expression I got from J.R. Canest's AE script spreadsheet, which is linked below as well. And what this does is maintains the scale of a layer even when its parent scale is changing. Now that might not sound super useful, but it can create some really nice effects. Here are these chickens parent to a null in the middle, and that null is just scaling up and rotating. And that's fine, it looks like a nice pleasant zoom in. But let's see what happens when we apply that expression to the scale of those chickens. So I'm going to open up the scale of one of the chickens, Alt or Option click the stopwatch, and I'm just going to paste in that expression. I'm going to click on scale, copy it with Control C, select all the other chickens, paste, and if we play it back, this happens. All the chickens are separating from each other, and it looks really nice because they're keeping the position that the scaled up parent gives them, but not the scale. This is great for explosion scenes as well. This is how I did the burst in this animation, and it's a very easy way to achieve this effect. Number 3 is time. Time is one thing that it's always useful to have more of in any project. And what time does is it adds 1 to the value of the property every second. So on a rotation property, it will increase the degrees every second. So let's just add in time, and we can see that the rotation goes up 1 degree every second. Pretty subtle here. So we can add a multiplier to that by having times and then 50. So now it will add 50 degrees every second. I use this a lot when I just need something to keep increasing over time. It's also really useful to add to a random seed property as well. So let's remove it from our rotation. An easy way to remove an expression is just to Alt or Option click the stopwatch again, and that will remove any keyframes or any expressions. Let's turn on this roughen edges effect that we've got here. Toggle this down, and we go to our random seed. And we alt click that stopwatch. Let's type in time times 4 here. If we zoom in, now it's going to keep increasing that random seed, giving it a different value. And that looks like this, which is great for adding a nice boiling effect that mimics hand-drawn animations. I use this all the time. Number 4 is plus value. Now, when you add most expressions, that removes your ability to control that value with keyframes. So here we've got a square rotating with a time expression. And if we stop it anywhere and try to adjust the rotation, or maybe add some keyframes and change the values, nothing happens. And we can tell because all these numbers down here are red, which is After Effects' way of telling you, no, don't touch these. But we might want to add some additional animation on top of this expression here. So all we need to do is click on this expression and add plus value. Now it'll rotate with this expression, and then let's go from 0 to 90 on these keyframes, and let's easy ease those. Now if we play it back, it's gonna increase slowly, and then add some additional rotation here that our keyframes are providing. So use value when you want to take back control. Number 5 is multiply by -1. Now this is a really quick way to switch a positive value to a negative value, or vice versa. And it comes in handy when we want to cancel out a value from our parent. So here we've got a little Ferris wheel rotating, and if we parent all of our little cages to this main wheel that is rotating and play it back, they all end up turning sideways and going upside down, which is not how they should react, and there would certainly be safety concerns. So what we can do is select one of these cages, open up its rotation, Alt or Option click, and then that brings up a little pick whip value here, which we're going to pick whip to the rotation of the wheel that it is already parented to. And now when we play back, we can see that it's got that additional rotation as well, so it's spinning independently, but it's spinning too much. So to cancel that out, we just need to add multiply -1 at the end. And now when we play it back, this cage is parallel throughout the whole animation. That's because it's following the main rotation of the Ferris wheel by being parented to it, but its rotation is rotating in the opposite way, which cancels it out. Then we could copy this rotation property and just paste it onto all the other cages. And now our Ferris wheel is up and operational. A quick word about this video sponsor, Squarespace. I used to be a web designer building and maintaining websites for my clients, and when I made my own portfolio website, I went to Squarespace because they make it so much easier than doing it all yourself. And best of all, it's so easy to add new projects so you aren't dreading updating your portfolio. The template designs look really professional to make your work look legit to any potential client. If you're indecisive, you can easily change the templates with a few clicks. And if you want to sell any physical or digital products, they've got the e-commerce sorted with inventory management, simple checkout processing, and secure payments, so you can start selling in no time. Head to squarespaces.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Ben Marriott to save 10% off your first website or domain. Number 6 is Posterized Time. I normally like to posterize time in my animations by adding an adjustment layer with Ctrl-Alt-Y, adding the Posterized Time effect, and let's say setting it to 12 frames per second. And that just lowers the frame rate and makes it look a bit more like traditional hand animation. But let's get rid of that because I want to show you how you can posterize just a specific value. So here we've got this square and it's animating on its position and its rotation. But let's say we want the rotation to be at a lower frame rate, but the position to stay at 24 frames per second. Here's how we do that. We go into our rotation property. Here it's animated by an expression. And then before that, we add the expression Posterized Time. And in the parentheses afterwards, type in the frame rate that we want. Then add a semicolon and put that time on another line. Now if we play it back, we can see the position's moving at 24 frames per second, but the posterized time is at 12. Let's lower that to 6 so you can see it really clearly. There we are. You can see the rotation is really steppy, and I really like this effect where you've got multiple frame rates happening at once. Number 7 is loop out. Loop out is super useful for repeating animations without any additional keyframes. So let's start with this square animation, just changing its position, moving to the right a little. We can quickly add a loop out expression by alt-clicking the stopwatch here, clicking this arrow and selecting Property, Loop Out, Cycle. And by clicking this arrow, you can open up lots of other expressions as well if you need to. So we've added loop out cycle. Let's see what that does to our animation. Now that is just going to repeat those animations of those keyframes. So it's going to go from the start to the end, and here it's going to restart back again at the beginning where we added our first keyframe. We can change the loop out type from cycle to ping pong, and that is going to bounce back and forth. And this is very useful in walk cycles in particular. If you want to loop out an arm or a leg swinging, this comes in handy. And let's add another keyframe of our box moving upwards in position as well. So if we ping pong that, it's going to go back through all of the keyframes. But if we change the num keyframes value over here from 0 to 1, it's only going to go back one keyframe in time and ping pong the loop between these two keyframes here. Let's change that back to 0 and then change the loop out type to offset. And this will add the values of those keyframes to the current position where it ends up. So we'll keep on moving forever in the same direction. Number 8 is referencing another comp. You might need to reference values from other layers in other compositions. Here we've got a bunch of type pre-comps, and we might want to make a template for someone else to come in and edit this, or we might want to add a top level controller where we're able to edit these from the top level of this comp. So let's add a text box and lap in test for the moment, and let's rename this one type master because we always label our layers. And now let's go into this type pre-comp here, and we're going to open up its properties until we find text source. And we're going to option click on the stopwatch for source text, and we're going to leave this text.source text here. And at the beginning, we're going to start writing this expression. We're going to start with comp. And if you're using After Effects CC 2019 and above, you get these autofills, which are really handy. So we want comp here with parentheses, and this expression is going to tell us which comp we want. So we want comp number 8, reference other comps. So let's arrow down to that and click enter. And then we're going to add afterwards .layer because we want to select a specific layer in that comp and add in quotation marks and type master, then add another period. And now when we click off, it updates to our test text that we'd written before. So let's go back up into our reference other comps. And now we can type anything into here and it updates automatically. Now, if we were making a template, it would be a good idea to maybe lock all of these type pre-comps, shy them all and hide them. So whoever's editing this won't be able to mess it up. And then we can even hide this layer and they can just type in whatever they want. You can even rename this composition and the layer name. And After Effects will go through and update the expressions where it's mentioned so it doesn't break, so fear not. Number 9 is wiggle. It wouldn't be an expression video if I didn't mention wiggle once. And this is most people's first expression. It was certainly mine, and it does kind of what it says it does. It wiggles the value of that property. So for adding a wiggle expression to the rotation value, we're going to type in wiggle, add the frequency, comma, and then the amplitude that we want. Now what does that mean? The frequency is just how many times a second that the value should change, and the amplitude is the maximum that it should change. And in rotation that would be degrees. So with wiggle 1, 50, it would wiggle up to 50 degrees once a second. And let's see how that looks. Not bad. Now you can also set these values really low. Let's go to 0.5 and set this one to 8. And here we get a nice gentle sort of swaying. I use this a lot for background elements that might be swaying in the wind or just need some subtle animation. Number 10 is math.round. Here we've got some text, and let's say we want to make a counter that counts up to 10. So let's go and add a slider effect to it. And let's option click on our text source, open up this pick whip, and drag that to our text source slider. And let's keyframe that slider to go from 0 and all the way at the end. Let's change that to 10. So now it starts at 0, ends at 10. This looks like it's going to be a good counter. But if we play it, it updates every frame in the middle, and we've got a whole heap of decimal points. So this isn't really what we want. Dot round, and then enclose that existing expression in parentheses. It will update and round down all those numbers to no decimal places. And now we've got a nice clean counter animation. And now we've got one bonus tip to save you time creating expressions. Here we've got 4 shapes and one has 3 effects applied to it. And what we can do is select all the effects applied to that layer, go up to edit, copy with relative property links, select all the other shapes and paste them onto it. And now all those effects are applied to those shapes. But if we go and edit the effects in our original layer, let's maybe change the fill, it updates across all the shapes. So we can remove its blurriness, change the amount of displacement, and it will update across all of them. After Effects has gone and linked them all with expressions, saving us a lot of time. Thanks After Effects. Thanks a bunch. I've made a short playlist of some related videos that I think you'll enjoy if you've made it this far. I'll see you in the next video, and please consider subscribing if you'd like more of these videos every week.